Hey guys, it's Lance with Cinematic Galaxy back again, and now I'm here to review the sequel to Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004. I believe it came out after Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which was one of my other favorite films of 2004 back then. I remember thinking, wow, they really are making a sequel to Spider-Man. And I still remember going to see it. I think I actually saw this opening day, June 30th, 2004, and the film was fantastic. You know, even back then, I think that I love this film even more than the first. You know, something about it, something about the feel of this movie, the tone of it, just really stood out and made it stand out from even the first movie. And especially upon rewatching these films and having read a lot of the comics, I have to say that I think that Spider-Man 2 is a big improvement on the first film. The issues I had with Peter and Mary Jane's relationship in the first film, they're still here. But it doesn't really bother me in this film because it is a sequel and it has to remain consistent with the first film. So, you know, whatever the flaws of the first film are, I'm not going to let those so much carry on into the second film because that is the route they decided to go. And I think that the route that they choose to go with the relationship in this film really, really works. Now, the basic story of this film, you know, is 2 years after the first Spider-Man and also 2 years after Uncle Ben's death and all that. And Peter is struggling to balance his regular life and hold his job and everything as Peter Parker, as well as balancing school, along with being Spider-Man. And it really, even though he loves being Spider-Man, he loves saving people and all that, it's really putting a lot of strain on his life, and it's just really hard to balance the two out. And he really does have a lot on his hands, you know, a lot in his life that is going on. For one, his Aunt May is struggling to pay the bills, while both she and him are also still suffering from Uncle Ben's death. You know, they still haven't gotten over that. And you really never get over stuff like that. And so that's very hard on him. And especially Peter, knowing that he had a lot to do with Uncle Ben's death. And also his friend Harry is now an alcoholic. And he hates Spider-Man because he thinks Spider-Man killed his father. And he's always trying to pressure Peter to, you know, talk bad about Spider-Man or to hate Spider-Man. And Peter is Spider-Man, as we know, but Harry doesn't know that. He just thinks that Peter is the photographer for Spider-Man. So that creates a lot of tension between them. And also the love of Peter's life, Mary Jane. She's an actress now, and you know, they're friends, and she invites him to their plays all the time, but he's never able to make them on time because he has to be Spider-Man. You know, there's a lot of crime going on in New York City, and Spider-Man always has to go stop it. Now the plot right there is really enough reason as to why this film is my favorite Spider-Man film, but also the execution is actually brilliant this time around. The execution is really pretty much flawless in my opinion. We have a lot of the returning cast back, pretty much everybody except for Willem Dafoe, and everybody is brilliant in this film. From Tobey Maguire, he really just owns this role so much, and like I said, even though he might not be as humorous as Peter Parker from the comics or Spider-Man from the comics, you know, you can't really hold that against him because he didn't write the script. And also, because of all the stuff going on with Peter in this film, I mean, it does kind of make sense that he wouldn't be cracking jokes all the time or anything like that. So, but I really love how he portrays the character in this movie. I thought he was great. Rosemary Harris is fantastic as Aunt May. And even Cliff Robertson, even though Uncle Ben is dead, he does return for a kind of dream kind of sequence, and he does great with the scene he's given. Also, I'd say James Franco is better this time around, and Kirsten Dunst is also very good for the way her role is written. Even though it's not quite Mary Jane, again, from the comics that we know, it still works for this film, and I can't really blame her for that. And also, I forgot to mention in my previous review of Spider-Man, J.K. Simmons plays J. Jonah Jameson, the editor of the Daily Bugle, who is always angry and always shouting and everything, and he is that's perfect casting right there. He is spot on perfect as J. Jonah Jameson. But I would say the most notable addition of this cast is Alfred Molina as Dr. Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Octopus. he is brilliant in this role. And Doc Ock is actually one of the ways that I think the films improved on the comics, in that they gave the character more emotional depth. In the comics, Doc Ock was really just a mad scientist. There was really nothing to him other than that. But in this film, they actually give him real emotional depth. You know, with his wife dying and everything during his experiment, it really does something to his psychosis, and the way Alfred Molina portrays this character is phenomenal. And as a result, I actually prefer Dr. Octopus as a villain in this film to the Green Goblin from the first Spider-Man. Well, this movie is very funny. Now, I thought the first film was funny as well, but, you know, the first film had a lot of cheesy moments, and this film has some cheese as well, but I think that it works a little better in this film. And I think that this movie is funnier than the first film. And once again, I have to say that this movie does a phenomenal job showing how Peter, all he has to deal with in his life as Peter Parker, outside of being Spider-Man. This movie does a brilliant job showing that. You know, you really connect with the character. You really feel for them. Anybody who's ever felt stressed out, who's ever had to juggle a lot of things like school, a job, you know, relationships in your life, all that stuff. Anybody who has dealt with that can connect to Peter Parker in this film. Tobey Maguire's portrayal is even better, and his character is written better. And it's like you connect with him more than you did in the first film. You really do. You know him as a person more, you know him as a character. If I'm not mistaken, this film might have more Peter Parker than Spider-Man. And I think that's a brilliant thing. I mean, I think that this film really functions very well as not just a superhero movie, but a true human drama. It really does work on that level. Danny Elfman's score is once again brilliant. The opening title sequences of this film is my favorite of the entire series. It's brilliant, the way they have the drawings and everything, and the music is so expressive once again, and so heroic and powerful. Also, I have to say that another area where this film, in my opinion, far exceeds the first film is the action sequences. While the first film had some very good, fun action sequences, the action in this film is so much better. The way it's shot, the way Sam Raimi does all the camera angles and everything. The inventive stuff that Spider-Man does with his webs and with his agility and swinging, and the stuff Doc Ock does with his arms. There's so many great memorable action sequences. One that takes place in the bank between Doc Ock and Spider-Man, and then it takes place on the side of a tall building. And then my personal favorite fight sequence is the train sequence. That's actually my favorite scene in the entire film. That is honestly my second favorite fight scene in a superhero movie after the Avengers, after the end battle in the Avengers. I have to say that this film, really the only reason that it's second is because it's not as long. And also I have to say that by the end of this movie, during that final swing with Peter Parker, you just really, because you've gone through so much with that character throughout the course of this film, you really feel so happy for him at the end of this film. You feel like your spirits are just elevated, you know, as he's swinging around New York City. And that's why the swinging scene at the end of this film is my favorite of the Spider-Man films so far. I have to be honest with you guys. The Avengers is my favorite superhero movie as of now. But I have to say that Spider-Man 2, I might actually, and The Incredibles is also another one, probably my second favorite. I have to say though that Spider-Man 2 might actually be my third favorite. You know, I might like it a little more than The Dark Knight, but it is kind of hard to compare those movies because they're just so different. Ultimately, all that is why I'm going to give Spider-Man 2 an A+. It's actually one of my favorite movies of all time. Down in the comments below, let me know what is your favorite Spider-Man film. Mine is this one, Spider-Man 2. And also, who is your favorite superhero? Mine, again, as I said, is Spider-Man. I love everything he stands for. Anyway, stay tuned for my review of Spider-Man 3. And this is Lance from Cinematic Galaxy, signing off.